I don't know how much longer this financial system can last. And so that's why if we could start from that point, let's start with the end and what you see. What does your crystal ball say? And then you can fill in the, because I think there's something driving it, something driving me too. And I see the end and I see the end coming.
Yeah, so my long-term outlook is to eventually see a higher rate of inflation with a degree of currency devaluation. So basically, the money supply would grow very substantially, and the individual buying power of those currency units would go down pretty significantly compared to a variety of hard assets.
I think the end is coming. You can only, historically, like we had the Weimar Republic, which brought Hitler to power. Right? Are you familiar with that? I'm sure you are. Yeah. What happened? Tell me what happened in the Weimar Republic, which brought Hitler to power. Wasn't it exactly what you said? The currency was gone, inflation went up?
Yeah, I mean, back then, so after World War I, of course, Germany's production base was destroyed. And whenever you have a country with its productive base kind of damaged, plus they had external war reparations. So they had debts that they couldn't print away. It wasn't denominated in their own currency. And so they eventually experienced a hyperinflation as they basically printed money to finance deficits. Just because, after losing the war, after having all this, very challenging political and financial situation, you had more and more kind of populism and extremism build up, and then it took a really dark path. My long-term base case for the United States is for a higher inflation, but not necessarily hyperinflation. And because whenever we see cases of hyperinflation, like Weimar, like some emerging markets, generally you need a combination of a couple things. One is you needed a destruction of your productive base. And so that happened in the Weimar Republic, that happened in Zimbabwe, and that can be due to a lost war, or it can be due to really bad internal social policies.
Is that what's happening in Venezuela today?
Yes, exactly. That's another case of hyperinflation happening. And so you have that kind of severe drawdown in the productive base. So they can't make enough goods and services to satisfy their needs. So regardless of how much money they print, the prices start going up rapidly. A second thing that helps contribute to hyperinflation is when they owe debt in a currency they can't print. So a lot of emerging markets today, like Argentina, for example, they owe debt that's denominated in dollars. Whereas developed countries like, Japan, the United States, their debts are mostly denominated in their own currencies. And so those hyperinflationary events tend to have those couple recipes. But for example, you often refer to the 1971 period, and that was a case of rapid inflation for the United States, but it didn't reach the levels of hyperinflation because we still had our productive base. We didn't have a collapse in our economy. We just had a really sharp devaluation of currency. And so it was something that the currency wasn't completely obliterated. It was just severely damaged. And that's kind of the outcome is a base case, I think, going forward over the next decade, is that you could see in developed countries pretty significant currency devaluation.
Na continuação da entrevista, Lyn e Robert observam que o DXY, que é o índice que mede a força do dólar, está em declínio. Esse índice é comparado com outras moedas fortes como o euro e o ien, e a tendência é que continue a cair. Lyn e Robert sugerem que teremos uma queda no poder de compra e alta no preço das commodities nos anos à frente. Isso quer dizer que a gasolina, a carne e principalmente os produtos que são usados na construção irão aumentar e o seu poder de compra irá ficar cada vez menor.
So my question to you with your crystal ball, because I know something's driving you. How long can we keep printing money to solve our problems, which are structural?
I think as you get deeper and deeper into this decade, so, call it 5 years or so, especially because, you have to figure out how much they're going to print, when are these commodity shortages going to become acute. But I think as we get roughly to the middle of this decade, I think that's where we start to run into some of these key shortages in things that have felt very abundant for the past, 5, 10, 15 years. I think, we're going to find ourselves in that period again, where we didn't invest enough in some of the production of some of these things. And as you point out, we had a really big destruction of small businesses this year. So for example, something like 100,000 restaurants have gone out of business, while larger corporations, because they have capital financing, in some cases they have bailouts, they have the Fed buying their bonds, they've been able to stay in business to a better extent than some of these small businesses. And so I think that a lot of these forces are going to kind of come to a head probably as we get roughly in the middle of this decade would be my best guess.
Apesar dessa conversa ser referente ao mercado americano, Não podemos esquecer o fato de que tudo que acontece lá afeta o mundo inteiro, inclusive o Brasil. Apesar de os produtos estarem cada vez mais caros, eu acredito que a coisa poderia ter sido pior, pois o que não parou no Brasil foi o agronegócio. Caso tivéssemos adotado o fique em casa para esse setor e a demanda continuasse a mesma, daí a coisa ficaria mais grave. O fato de ser mencionado que o preço das commodities irão subir me faz investir em empresas do setor. As exportações de carne bovina bateram recorde em 2020 devido à forte demanda da China, principalmente pelo surto de peste que deve matar milhões de porcos. A alta demanda por aço faz o preço do minério de ferro disparar, e se essa demanda continuar, será outra commodity com um preço elevado. Tudo isso é receita em dólar, e se tivermos uma alta do dólar, o lucro vem mais alto ainda. Isso não é nenhum tipo de recomendação de investimento, mas vale mais a pena entender o que se passa com a situação macroeconômica e tentar ganhar um dinheiro com isso do que ficar lamentando a alta dos produtos do nosso dia a dia. Se você curtiu esse vídeo, não esqueça de compartilhar e nos vemos até a próxima.